As a life coach, I end up talking to people about some pretty heavy stuff sometimes. It's kind of part of the deal. Coaching is a little bit like taking all your dirty laundry and sorting through it. And in the process, you get to decide what needs mending, what needs just a good cleaning, what doesn't fit anymore, what needs throwing out, and what never belonged to you in the first place, really. It's really powerful work, but it can be intense sometimes, and occasionally there are tears. Inevitably, when there are tears, I hear things like, I'm sorry for getting so emotional, I'm sorry for crying on you. And statements like that kind of break my heart because they imply that the tears are somehow inappropriate or embarrassing or unwarranted. And nothing could be further from the truth. Having a big old snotty nose, mascara running, gulping like a fish, ugly cry is actually incredibly good for you, and I highly recommend it. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. We're going to have a look at the science behind losing your shit. So there was this dude in the 70s, Dr. William Fry. He was a professor of pharmaceutics at the University of Minnesota, and he looked at the chemical makeup of reflexive tears, so tears you cry when you cut up an onion, say, versus emotional tears, so tears you cry at a sad movie. And the differences that he found were pretty interesting, actually. The reflexive tears served mainly to lubricate and flush the eye. Makes sense. But what he found in the emotional tears was that they contained all these hormones and proteins. And so he was like, why are there so many more proteins and hormones in emotional tears and not in the reflexive tears? And he came up with this theory he called the recovery theory. One of the substances that Dr. Fry found in our emotional tears is this protein called adrenocorticotropic hormone. And I'll just call it ACTH just for simplicity. Please don't make me say that again. So ACTH is a substance that's released into our bodies when we experience small amounts of stress. If enough ACTH builds up in our system, it triggers cortisol to be released. And cortisol is one of our primary stress hormones. So what Dr. Fry postulated is that we can actually prevent ourselves from getting really stressed out by releasing this ACTH in our tears. So crying is literally like pulling the plug on your stress. More tears equals less ACTH equals less stress. How cool is that? Dr. Fry also found that our emotional tears contain a substance called leucine enkephaline. It's an endorphin that is responsible for reducing pain and improving mood. So when we cry, we literally make ourselves feel better by releasing this natural painkiller and mood booster. Crying can also keep you from getting sick. All of our tears, not just the emotional ones, contain a substance called lysozyme. And lysozyme is a really powerful antibacterial substance that can kill up to 95% of the bacteria that comes in contact with our eyes within 10 minutes of contact. So when you're welling up, you're also washing out. Nicely done. Psychologists in the 1970s found that when an adult is moved to tears, it signifies recovery and adaptation rather than continuation of distress and arousal. In other words, if you allow yourself to cry, you move from freak out to fuck it much faster. So let them flow and let it go. All right, so your homework for this month is to go out and have a big old cry. I recommend watching Steel Magnolias. I cannot watch Sally Field do her why speech without completely losing it myself. I love that movie. I love that scene particularly because I always have a big old cry and I feel good. So yeah, there's some serious science behind why crying is good for you. So, don't bottle them up. Let them go, and you will find yourself where you want to be much faster.